All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Holler Hour. I am here with a couple of professors from Tennessee Tech who I'll introduce in just a second. But before we get going, I just wanted to plug once again, as usual, the fact that we are user supported and we are expanding all over the state. We've got hollers that are, popping up. It seems like every other week. It's really awesome. And that's all because of the support that you all give us. Your monthly donations really, really help us out and keep us going. And just remember, if you are able to, and if you haven't yet, head to our website, www.tnholler.com, shoot us a donation. And if you donate at least $10 monthly or more, we'll send you one of these awesome Holler hats. And and they come in a variety of colors. So definitely do that if you haven't yet. And thank you so much for supporting us. All right, well, let's get into it without further ado. So once again, I've got a couple of professors, Dr. Julia Gruber from Tennessee Tech, and also Professor Andrew Smith. And they are both embroiled in a controversy because of their anti-racist action, which we're going to get into, and we're going to hear all the details about that. But first, how are y'all doing today in the midst of all of this?
Well, I'm good. My dog has decided to bark now. Sorry.
No problem.
Silent all day, but now she's barking.
Cassie, it's been a wild ride, but we're glad to be with you.
Thank you. Yes, definitely glad to have you all. So would you just to kind of intro and give some context, what are your positions at Tennessee Tech? Like, what do you teach? What are your positions, and how long have you both been teaching there? I know it's been a while between the two of you.
Yeah, so I came to Tennessee Tech in 2008, and I am an associate professor of German, so I teach everything German. I take students abroad to Berlin and Vienna almost every year. I do theater. I bring diverse speakers on campus. I wear lots of hats. I've done a lot of service, and I was also the president of AUP, which is the watchdog. It's an organization for American university professors, and in that position, I have made myself vulnerable several times because I criticize openly, and I think I'm also from Austria, so I'm not from around here, and I'm a woman, so people don't like it when I express my opinion.
Yep, I know how that feels. How about you? How about you, Professor Smith?
Yeah, so I hope that we don't lose the call. I'm out and about. I was coming home from the big city of Nashville, where I went to go see a buddy for some self-care and to get some groceries and some books. And I'm in a parking lot because there was a major slowdown in traffic. I'd hope to be at my computer at home, and I hope that my audible's coming through. I hear you guys find the pictures are a little fuzzy, but I've been an instructor of English at Tennessee Tech since 2001, and I was tenured in 2011, and I also then pursued a second vocation in theology and religious studies. I'm a pastor and a preacher of the good news for the poor and for the oppressed, and therefore I am a theologian credentialed by Vanderbilt University. I started teaching religious studies around 2014. I teach a class on Martin Luther King Jr. and the nonviolent civil rights movement from a theological and rhetorical perspective. Talk about the Bible in class. I'm a pop culture studies guy, rock and roll studies. I do activism in all its forms. I've also presented on, U2 and the Grateful Dead, and I do poetry. I'm a published author. I do open mic nights. I have, a lot of energy, they tell me. They call me the Energizer Bunny. And so I just stay as busy as I possibly can, sleep when I need to. And but I believe in what Dr. King called the beloved community, which is a multiracial, feminist, anti-war world where we respect Mother Earth. And in the America post 2016, under the regime that has recently ended, we haven't been living into the beloved community. We've been living into a resurgence of white nationalism, white supremacy. And my heart hurts for Black and brown people, for the young man who was murdered in Knoxville the other day in the high school bathroom, and for the boy who was murdered in Chicago, a 13-year-old boy with his hands up. Hands up, don't shoot. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. And when we have colleagues that don't respect Black lives and don't respect brown lives and don't respect the diversity and inclusion that is in the mission statement of any public institution of higher education, we got to speak up. We got to speak out. We got to stand up and step out. And there sometimes are consequences for those kinds of activities. But, Dr. King always said you have to accept the consequences of your actions. And so if they will discipline us for this, we certainly hope that we don't get disciplined. We don't feel any discipline is necessary, but we'll stand for whatever the consequences are of our actions, and we won't be silent. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite preachers, the Reverend Otis Moss III from Chicago, Trinity United Church of Christ. You might have heard of that because that was Jeremiah Wright's church, the goddamn America sermon in 2008. Well, Reverend Moss said that when they killed Jesus, they forgot to shut his mouth, and he was up on the cross still preaching. So I don't care what they throw at us. I don't care what they do. I ain't scared of nobody in Cookeville, and I love Cookeville, and I love Tennessee Tech so much that I would be willing to tell our colleagues that we aren't. Ain't going to let nobody turn us around is what they used to sing back in the day. And ain't nobody's going to turn Julia Gruber around. They've tried. They've been trying. And that picture you threw up of me on the screen, Cassie, I have to say that was during my button down phase. My hair was short and my shirt was all buttoned up, and the COVID hair has come out, and
I understand that.
The filter has been turned off. Lord have mercy. They're going to have a verdict on Derek Chauvin within the next couple of days. And Lord have mercy on the people of the United States of America for the sin of white supremacy and institutional racism. And a change is going to come. And we want Tennessee Tech to be on the right side of history for its Black and brown students and colleagues and faculty, and speak up against racism, and for them to actually imply that it was Professor Gruber and I that was creating hostility at our campus. I think that was a misstep by the Human Resources Department to actually bring charges against us. And in the investigative memorandum, they didn't even investigate TPUSA. They just investigated me and Julia. I don't even see how that's fair.
Well, let's back up just a little bit, just because I don't know if all of our listener base knows exactly what happened. Sure. But that's I definitely. I mean, it's funny how human resources work sometimes, and who they protect. But not necessarily a blanket statement, but definitely sounds like that might be the case here. But yeah, if you all would just give some context as to exactly what happened. There's a controversy that you're embroiled in at Tennessee Tech, as you said, because you all distributed a flyer about a professor who was also a Putnam County Commissioner, Andrew Donadio, and he's also a member of the I believe Putnam County Republican Party. He's the chair, most relatedly, he's the chair of or head or whatever you call it, of the Turning Point USA chapter, Charlie Kirk's racist organization at Tennessee. It's the Tennessee Tech chapter. Is that what it is? Or the local chapter?
Yeah, and he's technically the faculty advisor. There's an article in Inside Higher Ed that came out today, and he explained what the faculty. So there's students that run this organization, but he's their advisor. Okay. But you can't sign off on a group that you're not sympathetic to. So like, I'm a Presbyterian preacher. I'm the Presbyterian advisor. I vote on the blue. So I'm the Democrats advisor. Julia is the advisor for a great club.
Yeah, I'm the advisor of German Club and the Lambda coalition. So So you
and I'm the faculty advisor of the NAACP. So you don't sign up to be the advisor of a club that you're not sympathetic to their mission.
So what exactly happened? So you put this describe the flyer and then what happened afterwards.
Well, let's back up a little bit, because I think what's really important is our involvement in the all goods racist school mascot removal activism. So I had never met AJ Donadio until I went to a school board meeting in Cookeville, and it was to attend the meeting where they discussed the formation of a committee to discuss whether or not that, those two school mascots should be removed. And especially the one in Allgood Middle School, which is the Redskin mascot, which the rest of the country is now finding out is very racist. So we're removing it, replacing it. But, I thought it might be time to do that here. And so I initiated a petition last summer, and we met with the director of schools and we attended school meetings. So there was some motion going on. And we were hopeful, and we is a fairly small group, but it's growing. We have 4,000 signatures on that petition to remove the mascot. We have a local businessman who came forward and said he would foot a portion of the replacement costs. So there are people, not just like a very small handful of people, but there's, there are lots of people now who think that might be a good idea. And so at the school board meeting that I attended, where I met Mr. Donadio, the school board decided to shut this whole thing down. They didn't even want to form a committee. And when the school board member for Allgood read her statement and declared that she was herself a very proud Redskin, which, I just don't even want to say that word because it's offensive. It is defined in the dictionary as a racial slur. It's a problematic word. Mr. Donadio and his two friends, who are also county commissioners, started clapping and cheering, and they were very loud, and it was really chilling, as I said in the interview with Inside Higher Ed. And, it was like a punch in the gut, and it was right behind me, and I felt him breathing down my neck. I mean, it was really uncomfortable. And my very good friend and Native American Sayota King and his wife and his two children who go to schools in Putnam County, and my daughter, who's 11, who goes to Allgood Middle School, we were all there, and we all agreed this was offensive. There was no dialogue because the county commissioners, who were very happy about this decision, rushed out, whereas the other people who were very disappointed stayed in. So there was no discussion there, no civil interaction between Mr. Donadio and us, right? He just almost ran out of that meeting. He got what he wanted, and so he was out. And so I told Andrew about this encounter, and before that, we had also found out that he had sponsored this student group at Tech, and there were several Tennessee Tech faculty senators who were not happy about this group and who wanted to know more information and felt that they had misrepresented what they are really about. And so there was some kind of, some movement there to not have them, because there are campuses in the United States who have denied that group to become an official student group because of their content and because of what they say and because they are considered a hate group. And do we really need a hate group on campus? We have the Young Republicans. If conservative students want to join that group, I think it's already, we are a very conservative area, a very conservative campus. I don't think we need another group that has that kind of content. So there was some resistance to this group. And then when I told Andrew made the flyer. And the next day I was still really shaken up by this event, that school board meeting. And I put the flyer in the nursing building. And, I stand by that. It's some harsh language that, was not typical of Andrew, but I don't see how he lied on that flyer. When I told him that I had been notified, and I was kind of surprised to get this notification of another investigation, because I have been investigated before for lesser things, like, based on an anonymous student complaint. I was investigated for 8 months for that, and it didn't go anywhere. But I told him, and he said, well, I will go with you. And, I take full responsibility, and they're just going after you again. And then he said, hold on, I got the same notification.
Oh, no.
So we are in this together, right? So
right.
I feel that our friendship, has strengthened through all of this. I have had students reach out to me, and they are behind me, and, our voices are necessary. I don't think we committed a crime by practicing our right to free speech. If Turning Point USA and if hate preachers and all kinds of strange individuals are welcome on our campus and exercise their freedom of speech, so can liberal, outspoken, critical, anti-racist professors. We have the same right to protest. I don't feel I harassed anyone with this flyer. It's a piece of paper, right? I'm not putting anyone's lives at risk with a flyer. Whereas, some people shoot themselves on our campus. They shoot into the, they don't want to, but they trigger, they can't handle their gun, but nothing happens to them. I mean, some people could kill people on our campus. Andrew and I would never hurt a fly. That's established. So to be the target of an investigation that's been going on for over 50 days, it's stressful, it's costly, and it's completely unnecessary. This is taxpayer money we're wasting on something that could have, like, if we had a functioning HR system, then we would have been invited to a conversation, right? If someone put up a flyer, people have called me many things in this community. If I have a problem with someone who calls me a name, I pick up the phone or I shoot them a message and say, if that person matters to me in any way, let's talk about it. But I don't run to the police and file a police report like that person is a criminal. I don't.
Right.
I think that for someone who is part of an organization like Turning Point USA, I must say he has very thin skin.
No, I think that's a good point. Yeah.
That a flyer would upset him this much because, he goes after, if you look at that watch list for liberal professors, there's mostly women on there, mostly Muslim women, some Jewish men. There's hardly any Christian white males on that list.
Right.
So they target people, they harass people, they probably record their professors in the classroom, and then these professors get targeted, and that's not comfortable. I understand it's not comfortable, but I don't feel that this man was targeted at all. Everyone's coming to his defense, right?
Yeah.
So that's a problem. So it's not really a personal thing I have. It's more, what this stands for. Why are we being targeted when this organization violates probably several policies themselves? They're harassing, they're discriminating.
Yeah.
I don't feel I'm doing that because he's not a protected class, right? A white male with racist views is not a protected group. He's not protected. I can't discriminate against him because he's not, he doesn't need
they hold the power,
He doesn't need protection, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you made a lot of really good points there, and it's so interesting to see when they apply freedom of speech and when they don't, when they apply the rights granted by the First Amendment and when they choose not to, and also just like the fact that anybody is free to say whatever they want, but that doesn't mean that they don't get retaliation or criticism for it. And so when they're Turning Point, you can just a quick Google search would bring up an insane amount of racist instances. The watch list alone, the professor watch list alone is a great example of that. And just things that their employees and people like adherents have said, there's just, again, a Google search would give you a million results. I just did a cursory search right before this.
The main Tennessee professor is I believe part-time at TSU. It's the Reverend Al Sharpton, and that's whose name pops up when you look for Tennessee people on that list. So they're targeting an HBCU. How obvious is that they would target? And Reverend Al Sharpton, the man's a national treasure. So, it's not complicated, but we have challenged our lawyer, and even in his rebuttal, he challenges the adversary here, the accuser, to denounce white supremacy, to denounce institutional racism. And he has not yet done that in his media appearances. In the Inside Higher Ed article today, he tried to denounce racism by saying that he doesn't judge somebody on I think he used the word melanin content. this is a fundamental misunderstanding of what race
Wow.
is in America. Race is a social construct, and it is a system of power and privilege that benefits white people. That's what racism is. And race was invented by white people to establish this system of oppression and of stratification. There is no this idea that racism is some individual proclivity about tone. I mean, it's what I've tried to teach my students is that in this society, race is a construct, but racism is real, and it's that system
Right.
of benefit. And I mean, just the recent surveys that have come out, in-depth studies of traffic stops in America. Basically, we're living in a society where there's a crisis in being a person of color, where it is literally like unsafe to walk outside your home. I when I was younger, I was not a nice guy. I might still not be a nice guy according to some of my colleagues, but I'm a recovered alcoholic. That means I'm in sobriety. I practice a 12-step program to live a sober life day by day. But when I was in my active addiction, I did some pretty rough stuff. Such as driving intoxicated, such as driving without a license, such as driving on expired plates, things that could have gotten me killed if I were a black man in America. This is such a, the evidence of systemic racism is so out of control, and violent retribution for being a young black person is so, the war. They talk a lot about the Civil War, and these people talk I'm saying these January 6th types, they talk a real good game about their Civil War, but the war was declared against the protesters last summer. So we had an incident of police brutality. The society said, we're going to, heal from this by having police reform. And so we're going to march peacefully in the streets. Like some 90x% of all the protests were 100% peaceful. And how did the society respond? By creating incidents of criminal police brutality at every single one of those rallies, or most of those rallies across America, where there was just an incredible deployment of military grade, restraint upon a peaceful uprising to demand police reform. But about the situation at Tech, what happened to me on February 5th is like what happened to me on January 6th. Is my heart was broken. And I made that flyer as a act of rhetorical desperation. And it was meant as my colleague has already said, to parody the rhetoric of Turning Point USA, and to challenge the narrative in my town, where in November, 70% of my neighbors who participated in the election chose a white nationalist, sex predator, asset of Russia. The person who's lied more than any executive we've ever had. He was a disgraced, impeached twice leader, and 70% of my neighbors, voted for this guy. So, and we've had other forms of harassment. Julia mentioned that she's been harassed by the institution before. She's also been harassed by these social media trolls. We've both been harassed by social media trolls for our involvement in civil rights. And so we live daily with threats now. I have had mail stuffed in my mailbox. It's Sayo tonight. She said, King, it's night, as one of the co-leaders of the Tennessee Indigenous Coalition with Professor Gruber. And he's a man of indigenous descent. He's had garbage thrown in his yard. So we're not, and TPUSA is a multi-million-dollar organization with a lot of deep pockets. We're not part of any organization in this context. Now, we're both members of many civil rights organizations, but we made this flyer as independent citizens, and we did not do it for the fame or the glory or with money behind our back. We did it to call out an injustice. And, people say, well, it should never have been anonymous. I mean, we're living in a world where anonymous trolls created an entire religion called QAnon. Like most of the things I do in public, Julia said it wasn't my normal mode of operations, and people keep saying, what's on the flyer? I said, no unity with racists, no free speech for racists.
Right. I've got it right here.
I want to question the rationale where they say we should have free speech for racists. Right. Like, what is the rationale that we should unify around white supremacy? I mean, what is the rationale that we should that there should be a neo-Confederacy. Since it really started happening when Dylan Roof shot up that church in South Carolina, they found their voice. Trump gave them their. I had a professor at Vanderbilt, my professor in Dr. King studies, Professor Lewis Baldwin, said he made it okay to be a racist again. The former president made it okay to be a proud racist again.
Andy, slow down a little. Andrew, slow down a little bit.
We lost you for a second there. And actually, this is a good place just to pause. I'm going to bring in Wolfgang as well. Wolfgang, if you're there, I just pulled you on screen. Hi. Sorry about that. I just saw you're hanging out down there, and I'd love to hear your opinions on all of this as well. I mean, Andrew just laid out some very good questions about freedom of speech, and also just is it even possible for there to be 100% freedom of speech on its face? I mean, even just the term itself is something that has a lot of questions attached to it, and also who is a member, who is part of the status quo that already has so much power behind it, and that I would definitely include Turning Point in that status quo 100%. I mean, they toe the line of the people that benefit from just the way that our country is structured. But before I go on more about that, Wolfgang, what is your impression of this whole situation? And just help give us some more context for all of this.
Y'all can hear me okay, correct?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Just my impressions of the whole situation. Honestly, I'm not surprised. I have seen this type of behavior from Tennessee Tech before. So I mean, that just kind of like sums up how I've been kind of viewing the situation. Typically, if you live in Cookeville, if you attend Tech, etc. Typically, if you're the type of person that likes to push things a little bit, then you're going to receive flack for it. Tech, Cookeville, it has a very environment of conservative leanings and also liberal leanings as well. Trying to maintain the status quo. They don't want to make anybody mad. That's why a whole lot of conservative think tanks can get away with what they do on campus, is because there's complicity. There's a complicit force supporting them and letting them do that. So in regards to the situation as a whole, I'm really not surprised by it. I've been through situations at Tech where I have tried to push the needle, got a lot of flack for it. There's also been times where, I've advocated for utilizing different tactics, and, people weren't down for the tactics. So ultimately, just kind of summing up the situation, is obviously it's not right, but I'm also not surprised, and it's expected. Okay, so.
Yeah. And you yourself are an activist in the area, and obviously you went to Tennessee Tech, or what is your role within this situation?
Oh, so I started attending Tennessee Tech in 2014. Andrew Smith, Dr. Gruber, they used to be some of my professors when I was attending Tech. Dr. Gruber, she was my German professor. Nice. Andrew Smith, he taught a class on MLK that I attended. So I just graduated from Tennessee Tech back in December of last year, Bachelor's of Science in Political Science and History. I'm involved in many different organizations: NAACP, Black Alliance for Peace. I'm going through a work study group with All African People's Revolutionary Party currently right now. So in regards to me, I try to kind of get off the activist label and kind of tell people, I'm training to be a revolutionary, because what I want in Tennessee is a major overhaul change. I don't want like small reforms. I want like a huge uprooting of the issues and us addressing those issues. So in regards to Tennessee, currently right now, had to kind of dig back into my studying to make sure I analyze the situations of what's going around in Tennessee, so I can come to a proper conclusion. Additionally, been setting up political education circles, because I think it is necessary for Tennesseans as a whole to kind of raise our political consciousness in order to successfully address the issues that are going on around at Tech and in Tennessee. So that's pretty much what I've been up to.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Yeah. So I know that you said that this isn't necessarily surprising, coming from Tennessee Tech. And this is a question, if Andrew's still with us, for any of you, Dr. Gruber, Wolfgang, any of us, or any of you. But how long, do you know how long the Turning Point chapter has been in existence at Tennessee Tech? Is it relatively new?
Well,
actually, I'll let y'all answer that.
It was it became an official student group just this year. So this year. This was in January, and that's why I mentioned the faculty senators who expressed concern.
I see. Okay, that clarifies that.
And according to them, they just, I don't know who presented, I guess the students who also filed complaints against us, they misrepresented what the group is about. I mean, they just said they were they did not mention the watch list or their racist statements that are all over their website.
Yeah. So they can be racist, but you can't call out their racism.
No, basically. And that's my major problem with it. But also people who've said, well, this is too harsh and you attack this person. Why is it worse to call it out than the actual thing? Like, why is racism is condoned, but then calling out racism is a crime? It's literally a crime.
And we should, Cassie, is it working now? I apologize for all my technology, but keep in mind that in 2019, the GOP, the campus GOP, hosted an event.
Oh, shoot, Andrew, we're losing you a little bit. I'm sorry. We had you for a second, and now we're losing you.
Okay. Tell the story of the flyer from 2019, Julia, if you can.
All right. Okay. So in 2019, in the fall, everyone on campus received this flyer. It had like Pocahontas, Warren as Pocahontas, and Sleepy Joe, and so it was quite offensive, and it was an event. It was a watch party organized by the Young Republicans and Turning Point USA. So this was in 2019 when they were not an official student group, but they were already on campus, and several people had a problem with that announcement, and it was in Tech Time, so it was broadcasted to everyone on campus. And so I think it was Dr. Smith, not Andrew Smith, but Troy Smith, a history professor whose specialty is African American history and also indigenous history and culture. And so he's also part of trying to replace the all good mascots, although no one listens to him, because he's a specialist, but they'd rather listen to NAGA, which was, is promoted by Turning Point USA. And that's a pretendian organization. It's like, they pretend to be Native Americans who don't mind being called racist slurs. But, when you look closer, they're not even real Native Americans. They're getting paid to wear, some cheap feathers and they say, well, we don't mind, our Cherokee ancestors wouldn't mind being called a racist slur, which is, it's not true. It is an offensive term. So this organization was on campus and, was in the SGA, Student Government Association, before they were an officially recognized group on campus. And there's also a New Yorker article from 2017 that had a little graphic at the bottom, and it mentioned that Turning Point USA had declared victory at Tennessee Tech in 2017. So this is 4 years before they become recognized as a group, and it is the fastest growing youth group in the United States. So there's they packed 80 buses full of people to go to the Trump speech at the Capitol on January 6th. 80 buses full of students.
Right.
They also go to high school high schools and you know, brainwash the kids there. I really
Right.
don't have a better word for it because it is brainwashing, you know. I mean, they question on one of the, I can't really read their stuff for too long because it's like watching Fox News. I just get really angry. So I think that's why many of these people are so angry, because they watch angry stuff all day.
Right.
But they were questioning Breonna Taylor's case. Like, you
I
know,
saw that.
was it really the wrong door? I mean, you know, it's just, it's disrespectful. When you want to be generous, you can call that disrespectful, but it's racist. And I would swear if I, you know, could.
I mean, we do on the show sometimes, so you feel
It
free
is.
if you would
Well,
like
but
to.
then, you know, then they file another complaint against me, so I'm not gonna swear live.
Oh yeah.
But their views are just, to me, they're dangerous. They're inciting violence, and I'm not going to be quiet about that. You know, if that happens in my town and I can do something about it, I will. I will speak up, and I don't think that's a crime. So, you know, we were at first, I really felt like I was being caught on surveillance, but it's not a crime to exercise your right to free speech. This is not a crime. And so I don't feel caught. I feel that they're putting something on me that, you know, is not wrong of me to do. I think it should be actually, you know, the official charge, I think, will be capricious disregard of established professional standards. That will be the charge, right? And so I think it should be a professional standard. Actually, we should add that as intelligent people, as people who have had 150 years of higher education, and, you know, I mean, we read all the time and we're supposed to be educated. We should, as a profession, we should also stand up to racism. That should be part of the job description. That should be ethical. It should be expected. So
Right.
don't come after me. Don't make me hire a lawyer every 3 semesters because I speak truth to BS.
Yeah.
You know? So they have a very strange view of freedom of speech. You know, we have a very strong campus law for free speech. You can, you know, we can have hate preachers on campus who shout the most horrible things at students. We can have Turning Point USA on campus. We can have a flyer that is, you know, that makes fun of politicians in a really gross way. We can have all this stuff that's really ugly. It's not kind. But then you can't do the same to the people who are doing it all the time, because
Right.
that's offensive.
Right. Yeah, that needs to become more normalized. So I definitely appreciate you all, you know, speaking up. Wolfgang, I saw that you probably have some thoughts on all of that. What are your thoughts?
So just to kind of put it in context, if people know how student groups get started on Tech's campus, it's not just like a 1 semester thing. So, you know, for example, when I started the NAACP chapter on campus, that took like 2 years for it to be like an official thing, because, you know, we had to organize people and et cetera. You know, same thing with the Black Student Union at Tennessee Tech. You know, we were able to, with that one, we were able to kind of speed up the process. But if we weren't able to speed up the process, then that would have took multiple semesters to get up too. So just kind of going to their point, in regards to Turning Point USA, they might have not been an official Tennessee Tech organization until this semester, but they've been having meetings, moving around at Tech before.
Gotcha.
So just kind of putting it in context.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, where do things go from here? I mean, I know you have to wait for the investigation to complete and just to kind of see, you know, if that is the charge that's indeed brought. But, you know, and also just so both with the specific potential charge and then, you know, with your profession, but also like just the broader context of Tennessee Tech, like, are there other people who are, you know, it sounds like there are other people that are getting riled up because of this and have your backs. Are there people that are going to continue the pressure, and maybe student organizations that are also putting any pressure, or just kind of where do things go from here on all of those fronts?
Well, this investigation has been going on for over 50 days now, and we did not speak publicly about it because we didn't want to interfere with the investigation. Maybe part of that is, it's also interesting that the flyer, the one flyer Andrew put up was taken down pretty much immediately, and the flyers that I put in the nursing building were collected within 2 hours. So on a Friday and on a Saturday. So it's more than likely that hardly any students or anyone else saw those flyers we put up. But then after filing the complaint, Mr. Donadio himself went on this media tour and shared the flyer everywhere on social media and with conservative outlets. So he pretty much himself, distributed it, because I didn't distribute it. Distributing is like handing it to everybody on campus, and I didn't do that, and neither did Andrew. So someone is really enjoying this attention, I think, and milking it for what it's worth. These bad liberal people are threatening me, and I don't feel I did that. So I don't know. It's been taking a long time because the incident we mentioned earlier where a VP shoots a gun in his office, that took a week to handle. So the Second Amendment is taken very seriously on our campus, and we just hope that the First Amendment will be taken seriously as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
I want to clarify one little bit about what you said about the investigation versus the disciplinary procedure. So first of all, my attorney and even Julia and I have differently interpreted the original memorandum that we received from the university. We received our original memorandum on February 24th. It was a Wednesday at about 4 o'clock, and that's when Julia sent it to me. And I told her I was in it with her before I even realized that I'd gotten the same memo. Even that memo implied allegations. It did not make official charges, but it implied misconduct and allegations in so much as they even invoked Policy 207, which is the policy by which a tenured faculty member can be removed from the campus for adequate cause. And the policy handbook at Tennessee Tech is a password-protected website with hundreds of pages and very legalistic language. It is very difficult for even a credentialed person like ourselves to navigate all of the paperwork on that website. And Mr. Holt, in his original memo, cited multiple offenses against us from multiple different policies. And he said our entire operation will fly under policy 141, which is the policy to protect women and minorities from harassment. And our attorney said to the university then, and he said it to them again in his response the other day, that Professor Donadio's organization in its current iteration is not a protected class.
Right.
So, but they concluded the internal human resources investigation on last week, and they sent us a memorandum where we have been charged with a violation of policy, and it was referred to that man's supervisor, who is the vice president for finance, who is not in my chain, is not in my flow chart at the university. So because she has no direct supervisory authority over me, that administrator, that's a vice president, she referred it to a different vice president who is my supervisor. Dr. Lori Mann Bruce is the provost or vice president for academic affairs. And it said in the memorandum, we refer this matter to you for quote unquote appropriate disciplinary action. It is undetermined yet whether Provost Bruce will act on that. It's my understanding, I might be wrong, that Provost Bruce has these following options. She, after conferring with her inner circle, she can drop the case against us. She could possibly come up with some kind of a written reprimand, or she might pursue.
Oh, kind of losing you, Andrew. I'm sorry.
So that last option is to form a faculty committee, and then that would be like a trial. So there are different steps to be taken. Okay, he's silent. He muted
there
himself.
We go. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, well, I have been through this before, so I'm a little bit less jumpy than Andrew has been. I understand it because the first time around, it's sleepless nights and cost a lot of money. I mean, you have to pay 2 of your monthly salaries or more just to fund your legal battles against your employer, and you also get a chip on your shoulder if you complain often enough or you do these things often enough. Then sometimes, even if you don't really do it, you you are they keep watching you. So that's how I feel at this point, and it's it's what it is. So it's a waiting game. It's not something that will be decided quickly, I think.
Right. Wolfgang, I don't know if you can speak for some of the organizations that you're a part of, or just kind of like if you have a finger on the pulse of just the student community, of those people that would be, that are behind Professor Gruber and Andrew, Professor Smith. But yeah, I don't know. Like, how does the student community feel about this from the people that, are supportive of what they did? And is there any, I don't know, is there anything on the front there in terms of like student action involving any of this?
Well, I don't want to speak like too out of touch because technically I am an alumnus now.
Right.
So I'm not in constant communication with the student body as I was, previously. But one thing I will say is students on Tech's campus know what's going on. And truth be told, kind of like what I said at the beginning, when I said I'm not surprised by this situation, I think if you went and talked to some of this, I think if you went and talked to some of the current students, specifically the students that typically hang in the Black Culture Center at Tennessee Tech, they will tell you they're not surprised by what's going on, even if they don't know the situation. You sit down and explain it to them,
sure.
They wouldn't be surprised by what's going on because again, their situation is stuff that we had to deal with all the time. Unfortunately, when it comes to Tennessee Tech, they're very complacent. And that is something that I have harped on for a long time. They're complacent, and then they try to wrap that complacency up as, oh, we're just not trying to piss anybody off. But if anybody truly understands like social justice work, activism, revolutionary work, if anybody truly understands that, then they know that there are going to come times where confrontation is necessary. That's why I think it might be fair to say, if Dr. Gruber and Andrew Smith, they want to correct me, but I think it'd be fair to say that I was kind of one of the few that when I found out about the flyer, I was kind of like, okay, so what's the problem?
Right.
There were a whole lot of people that, didn't have an issue with the action, but they took issue with the flyer. Me, I was kind of like on the outside looking in. I was like, I 100% support all that shit. I support what was put on the flyer. I support, it being hung up where it was. And that, and that's just how I feel on it, because truth be told, if Tennessee Tech truly did not want that group on campus, then they would not have allowed them to become an official Tennessee Tech organization, but they did. So so in my opinion, don't sit here and tell Dr. Gruber and Andrew Smith, oh, y'all handled this the wrong way when y'all didn't handle it at all. There's a conversation that people honestly need to have in regards to tactics, especially in regards to this work. There are many different tactics. There are many different roles. Some people, when it comes to the movement, their role is being a teacher. For you, your role is in media. Everybody has like a different role, medical care, gardening for food. Everybody has a different role in a specific tactic within a movement. And just because somebody's tactic doesn't match your tactic, it doesn't make your tactic wrong. It just means that I have a different tactic of going about it. But that's a situation that we're seeing at Tech. you have people who wanted to utilize a different tactic, and unfortunately it didn't work. So you had Dr. Gruber and Andrew Smith that decided to use a completely different tactic from them. And honestly, if I was to be 100% honest about it, their tactic worked a whole lot more than than the whole administrative committee group that Tech had. Their tactic worked a whole lot more because, frankly, we're here right now.
Right.
The word is getting out. People are starting to hear, like, okay, what's going on at Tennessee Tech. So, in regards to what they did, I have no problem with it, because at some point you have to challenge the complacency and status quo that is ultimately being used to allow some of these things that goes down at Tech. Honestly, I was saying it last night. Unfortunately, it's a pitfall of liberalism. Truth be told, they don't want conflicts. They don't want to piss people off, and they want to maintain the status quo and whatnot. And again, I understand. I 100% understand, but eventually there comes a time where the status quo and complacency just doesn't work anymore. Right. And that's even on an individual level. If you're complacent in your life, then don't expect anything good to happen in your life. You feel me? Like, even, just kind of using myself as an example as a college student, if I'm complacent in my life, then I won't move forward in my life. And that's the same thing when it comes to Tech. If they continue being complacent in their policies and want to throw out all these buzzwords such as diversity and inclusion, but they're continue being complacent in their actions, then eventually, like, Tech is not going to reach the heights that it wishes it wants to reach. It will always be a complacent campus where every other year, we're having issues like this, and Black students' material conditions continue to get worse on campus. And then additionally, we get more professors like Andrew, I don't know his last name, D dude. But
Donadio.
Right, yeah, I didn't know how to pronounce his last name, but because of complacency, it breeds more reactionary forces on campus. If y'all feel what I'm saying, if you're complacent, then you don't have your guard up to stop those things from coming on your campus. And unfortunately, because Tennessee Tech has been complacent, there's been a lot of things that have gone down on campus that I have seen that has angered me. I have spoke on it. Tennessee Tech hasn't done anything about it, and because of that, it will lead to more situations down the road. So
I just want to say one more thing, that Tech's adjectives they use on banners and everywhere else is bold, fearless, and confident. I think that I've just always misunderstood what that means, because I thought I was just following, what they expected me to do, to be bold, fearless, and confident. And I think Wolfgang is a prime example for a bold, fearless, and confident student. He speaks the truth. He's not afraid to express his experience, and that's brave, right? That's bold, fearless, and confident. And I think we really need to keep that in mind, what the university expects of us. And those are our actions. And I am personally really inspired, and I think that's also why I have become more radical in my old age. I am inspired by African American and brown women who, risk a lot to speak the truth. And some of them are radically rude, right? They undress and they show their breasts and they wiggle them in the courtroom as a form of protest. Now, I'm not going to do that because I think that might really get me in big trouble. So I'm not going to do that. But that there is a strategy. It's called radical rudeness, and it is to sometimes with humor and sometimes with radical acts that don't hurt anyone physically, but that is how you get attention. And sometimes, and as white people, we don't have the same risk. We might get investigation, we might, get some trolls coming to our social media pages, but we're not the main target. We don't lose our lives over this, hopefully, and unless some VP can't handle his gun on campus, I don't think I'm gonna lose my life, right? But a black or brown person, or if you want to bring in the indigenous people, who don't get enough attention in this country and whose history has been completely whitewashed, those people really risk something. That it's a matter of life or death to speak up for them. They always get vilified, they always get attacked, they get harassed. So us white folks, it's on us to counter that and to speak up. And this is what I teach my students, I hope. I don't preach that in my classroom, go after racists. I don't do that. But I do teach the Holocaust in my classroom. I do teach, coming to terms with your difficult history as an Austrian and as, someone who's traveled to Germany many times. It's important to face your mistakes.
Yeah.
And to face what went wrong and not always say, well, we're the greatest country in the world. You're not. The US is not the greatest country in the world. It hurts a whole lot of people. And if I am in the room when a person of color is hurt, then I will tell my friend Andrew, and Andrew will make a damn flyer. And then we're going to take this flyer and we'll hang it up. And if they want to come after us and discipline us like misbehaving children, please do that.
Yes, it's a definitely a good reason to be, to have, if you're gonna be disciplined for something, then it might as well be something like this. It's totally. I mean, and as just kind of echoing what you're saying and what Wolfgang was saying as well, just like, the status quo is always going to stay the same unless people like you and people, who are involved in any sort of activism are agitating. That's the only way, through mass movements, mobilizations of people. Wolfgang, you call yourself a revolutionary. I mean, it's incredible because that's exactly what it takes for, and will take eventually, for full liberation. And it's just these little acts like these that over time, hopefully will lead to real fundamental change. I mean, we're going to kind of wrap up here a little bit, but if anybody just has like a quick short thing to say as we wrap up, please go for it.
I just got home. I think I might have a better connection. I wanted to answer one of your questions that you asked earlier when I was driving. So what we've got with the student organizations that I'm involved in and that Julia is involved in, they're becoming more aware of this, and they wanted to make sure that they got the full information. Like, there's folks that never even heard of TPUSA. They didn't understand. So they wanted to get all the context in the background and understand all the facts of the situation. But alumni, students, colleagues from Tech and colleagues outside of Tech are now mobilizing in support. Some of them have chosen to write letters to the institution. People are getting involved in helping.
Shoot, it always seems to happen about 30 seconds in. Andrew, you froze. So if you pop back in, within the next, minute or so, then please, we'd love to have you finish your thought. But if either Wolfgang or Professor Gruber, if either of you have anything else you would like to say before we wrap up, please go for it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that one thing I tell people all the time is, because I spend a lot of time, identifying the issues, but, as I've kind of grown, I've told people that I need to spend equally enough time of giving solutions and whatnot. So, in regard, and this just doesn't apply for Tennessee Tech as a Tennessee Tech, but it applies to the whole state of Tennessee as a whole, because I personally feel like we're going through kind of a war period right now, with all the legislative bills being passed. So I 100% believe that people are gearing up for something that I don't like. I'll put it like that. So with that in mind, I always tell people, if you're looking, and I'm just talking to everybody that's viewing right now, if you're wondering on some things what to do, in regards to Tennessee. One thing I would tell you is please join a radical organization. And when I say, radical, I mean that like specifically, join one and and organize around the issues that are affecting Tennessee Tech. And then, not Tennessee Tech, my bad, Tennessee, sorry. And then additionally, along with that organization, there needs to be mass political education work. So that way, everybody has a full understanding of the issues that affect Tennessee. And then from there, we will be able to effectively mobilize and strategize against a lot of the key issues going on in our state. And like Dr. Gruber said, was it radical rudeness?
Radical rudeness.
That's and unfortunately, that's when it comes to Tennessee, that's what I think it has to take. Simply because we are so overwhelmed here. So I always preach on that. The oppressed people within Tennessee, we need to make sure we stand with strength and power. Because I firmly don't believe we are outnumbered at all in Tennessee. I just think people are disorganized or not in an organization. So once
they may be disempowered.
Exactly. Maybe. And so I firmly believe once we start getting people involved in radical organizations that are truly fighting for the liberation of Tennesseans, and then additionally that's spreading to the rest of the country and the world globally, then it's going to be kind of hard to to effectively fight back against all this stuff. That's why I tell people, hey, if you come across a radical organization, join it. And if there ain't one in your area, then do it yourself. You got all the power. You got all the power you need. We got these all the time now. So, it's easy for us to reach out to folks to get some ideas. So yeah, I just wanted to tell, everybody watching today, if you're wondering what to do, join a radical organization. Make sure you read all the information, and make sure that their principles align with your principles. Join that organization, get some political education, and let's mobilize and fight back against a lot of these issues. And if there ain't one in your area, make one. So
it's great advice.
Yes. Hey, I stand with you.
I stand with you too.
Wolfgang Bronner is an amazing colleague and comrade, and when we had the MLK class, we studied Kingian nonviolence, Kingian theology, the rhetoric of nonviolence. We studied anti-racism for white people. I had one day where I only spoke to the white students about anti-racism, but we had a whole unit on the Black Power movement, and I remember that day. And Wolfgang, and then later future African-American or Black students that took that same class, pulling me aside and saying, well, you know what, Mr. Smith, I kind of identify with these people, a little bit more because of their bold, fearless confidence in the need for empowerment and the need to take pride in oneself and to feel confident in oneself when you've been so historically marginalized and oppressed by this racist, patriarchal capitalist system. I just, I have a hard time with watering down the vocabulary sometimes, and that's why I've started to use the term white supremacy, because I feel it is a more clinical term for what we are up against in this nation that was founded on Indian graves and the blood of slaves. And so we need to turn this thing back. We need reparations. We need to return some of the lands to their original inhabitants. And we need to take a step back and allow young people like Wolfgang the platforms and the voice that they need, and his colleagues and comrades in his communities that are, as he said, studying, who have gone to school on this. So Wolfgang took me to school. I mean, he was the professor today. I was just his student today, as far as this conversation goes.
That's awesome. Dr. Gruber, any final words?
No, just I teach my students to be defiant. That's the biggest compliment. I said that yesterday in an interview too. If a especially female student comes up to me and says, "You've made me more defiant," I have achieved everything.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. I really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you, Cassie.
Yes, of course. I mean, I learned a lot, and good luck, with the rest of the investigation. Please keep us updated. We'll update our audience as well as things go along. Please feel free to, contact us anytime if there's anything you want us to highlight. And I really appreciate hearing from all of your voices today. And best of luck.
Thank you, Cassie.
Y'all have
Appreciate
a
it.
blessed one.
Thank you. You as well.
Bye.